Balancing the protection of natural habitats and food production is complex, but what happens overseas could provide insights for agriculture here. In densely populated Switzerland, farmers say environmental red tape and high consumer expectations mean it's increasingly difficult to make a living. And as Prue Adams reports, that's even with some of the world's most generous government handouts.
When the Swiss summer comes to an end, dairy cattle that have been grazing high in the Alps are welcomed back to town. It's a beloved age-old custom that's replicated in many mountainside villages, each family proudly parading their herds past an appreciative crowd. In the weeks to follow, the cows will feed in nearby fields, and by the long, snowy winter, some will be ushered into barns. While this tiny landlocked country in the middle of Europe punches above its weight in international affairs, when it comes to agriculture, particularly dairy and livestock, it's deeply traditional. It's hard to think of two countries that are less alike in their approach to farming than Switzerland and Australia. Of course, the landscapes are totally different, but it's the billions of Swiss francs that are spent to keep farmers afloat that really sets us apart.
So in Switzerland, we have around 50,000 farmers. These are small-scale farmers. They have around 20 hectares in average. In the Alps, there is a lot of mountain farming. It's very small-scale farmers that do produce milk and meat. And a lot of these farmers, they have another job beside it.
We have a very strong food industry.
Christian Hoffer is Director of the Federal Office of Agriculture. He told an international congress of agricultural journalists the subsidies to farmers in his country are the highest in Europe, among the most generous in the world. Around 3 billion Swiss francs a year, about 5 billion Australian dollars.
They are supported really more compared to the farmers outside Switzerland. And we also have a border protection that is stronger than the protection the farmers in the European Union have. So that makes that in Switzerland it's possible to have smaller farms and still earn enough money to be farmers.
I'm one of 250 journalists checking out this proudly independent country's unique approach to farming.
I would say the average farm around here has maybe 20 hectares.
We climb high into the hills where farming families survive running a few dozen dairy cows.
That's fun.
In these more remote regions, up to 60% of the farmer's income is supplied by the government through a system of direct payments. But they must comply with rules around environmental management and animal welfare.
Every farmer has to fulfill a cross-compliance, to have a certain area of biodiversity, to use only certain pesticides, to have a crop rotation, to have a balance of the fertilizers. And with this cross-compliance, when the farmer fulfilled it, he got that money.
Beautiful Bern, the Swiss capital, where the system of direct payments was legislated back in the 1990s. 30 years on, you might expect substantial ecological improvements, but numerous reports show that's not the case. The glaciers are melting at an alarming rate due to climate change. A third of the country's wild species are endangered, and 2/3 of the habitat is either threatened or near threatened status.
Biodiversity is under pressure in Switzerland. We are a lot of people, we are living very dense, we have a lot of infrastructure that makes a big pressure on real nature areas.
We have more and more people in Switzerland, and we have to feed them. And one way would be to import it, but we want to have some self-sufficiency.
Swiss journalist David Eppenberger writes mostly for the vegetable industry. 3,500 farms produce about half the domestic vegetable consumption. It's a more innovative sector than mountain-based livestock and relies less on government support, but growers are leaving the industry.
It's more complicated to produce vegetable than 10 years ago, and it costs more. The problem is no one wants to pay for it. The retailers, they make big pressure on growers, or price pressure. So we have growers, they quit.
In the vegetable growing heartland of central Switzerland, we'll meet 3 growers who've had to innovate and adapt to a raft of new regulations.
You still can see the residues from the cover crop.
Reto Mender is the president of Swiss No-Till. He's a follower of conservation agriculture, which advocates soil health above all else. He's also one of the few remaining growers of Brussels sprouts.
One of the biggest problem with the Brussels sprouts is this insect, the white fly. Here you can see the eggs.
Growers have relied on pesticides to fight whitefly, but bit by bit, those tools are being removed.
The last years we lost a lot of products to fight against this whitefly. There are, I would say, 2 products left. So a lot of farmers, they quit the production because the risk is too high.
He grows a diversity of crops on his 35 hectares and plants sugar beet in between the corn as both a cover crop and to limit disease. But herbicides are needed to control weeds, and there's been consumer pushback on the use of the most ubiquitous of those, glyphosate.
Last year it was a big discussion in the EU, and now it's again allowed to use it for 10 years. So the next 10 years we will have this product still to use. And I think it's very important that we can use this product in the future, because it's very important to protect the soils. Without glyphosate, you have to till again.
Not far from Reto, Leandre Guiord became so fed up with growing vegetables, he swapped to rice.
Instead of growing more and more and with smaller margin, we thought of trying to find an alternative crop.
The 10-hectare plot is one of the world's most northern rice crops.
My brother worked in Australia for a year in 2012, and there he discovered a leveling technique, which is not common here in Switzerland. And actually, thanks to this technique, we got into rice, because you need to level the field in order to be able to flood it.
Marketed under their own brand, it's sold directly to the domestic market. While rice gets bad press in Australia for its high water use, here in what used to be a Swiss swamp, it's considered a biodiversity hero.
At the moment, we have around 20 species of dragonflies here. As you see, we don't have mosquitoes because there are so many dragonfly larvae in the water that they can control mosquito population. We have some small snakes, also some special species of birds.
Are you advantaged financially by having high biodiversity here with government subsidies or help?
Yeah, but to give you an idea, that represents like 5% of the income. So in Switzerland, we have to respect rules, and we are paid for it. And yeah, we take the money that they give us for what we do.
On any given day, you can find Pascal Gutnecht in the packing shed with 130 hectares of field vegetables and 7 hectares of greenhouses. Pascal is one of Switzerland's larger market gardeners. He sells to the major supermarkets and via his farm shop.
We make only for the Swiss market, and then nothing go out. And for us, it's a good thing.
Also, a good thing for his bottom line are the high tariffs placed on imported vegetables during the Swiss growing season, so consumers are coerced into buying local.
When the vegetables from the other countries it's coming, then we have a big problem here. It's not working for us.
Because they can have cheaper labour in other surrounding countries.
Italy or Germany or Netherlands.
Keeping greenhouses at a constant temperature is vital, and that requires power. The Swiss government is bringing in new rules restricting reliance on fossil fuels such as oil and gas. So by next month, Pascal will be burning industrial wood to provide power.
So it's okay to burn wood to make for fuel. Yeah. That is considered to be sustainable.
The stuff we have here in this area, we have a lot of mountains with wood, and we don't need gas or fuel from other countries. We have the stuff here.
To add further pressure from the end of next year, the mighty Migros supermarket chain won't accept vegetables from greenhouse growers who are still using oil and gas.
I think maybe 70–80% of all growers don't have a solution.
So what will happen to vegetable growers in Switzerland?
Everybody wants to eat, and we will see next year. For us, it's really good.
Swiss consumers have high expectations of their food and of food producers, and they pay for the privilege via their taxes. They want it locally grown. Food security in a post-pandemic, politically unstable Europe is important. But they're also demanding farmers adhere to rules that restrict certain practices and chemicals.
It's a global trend, of course, but here, the limited land space to actually grow this food, along with their system of direct democracy, which basically allows anyone to challenge legislation at any time, means that the issue seems to be exacerbated.
I understand if the farmers are saying we are at the tipping point, because during the last 5 years there were 4 or 5 votations concerning the agriculture. If we should have forbid pesticides, if we should decrease the number of animals. Now if we should increase the surface of biodiversity, and that puts always the farmers under pressure.
We've got all the paperwork, all the limitations, and also the pressure from the media to the farmers, from nature organizations to the farmers. We are responsible for all the nature problems, for reducing the biodiversity, to having more pesticides in the water, etc., more and more. So the pressure is increasing, and many farmers, they are sick of it.
For all the differences between our two countries, the most heavily subsidised versus the least, small-scale mountain farming compared to our large, broad-scale enterprises, protectionism instead of Australia's free market philosophy. Many of the pressures are eerily similar. The push and pull between food security and environmental stewardship are universal. How to go about change and conform to consumer expectations will be debated here and in Switzerland, probably until the cows come home.